Okay, I think I'm ready. Anybody here? Oh, I see a few people coming on here. If you want to let me know if you can hear me okay, I would appreciate that. And just waiting. Okay. Jennifer, can you hear me okay? Up. Let me see here. Okay, got that. Hello. Okay, good. Hi there. Greetings, everybody. Are you ready to learn something new? I hope. Okay. Um, I've been playing a lot with metal clay, and I like to make some embellishments for other projects. Metal clay pendants and earrings are great just on their own, but you can also do lots of other little fun things with them. So I'm going to show you some of the stuff that I've made so far, and walk you through making a mold, a two-part mold, which is extremely simple, and then we'll use a little bit of clay. So I'm gonna turn the camera down here, hopefully. I hope you can see it okay. These are some of the embellishments that I've made. I particularly like the little succulents and leaves. And you can see where I've incorporated a few of those in one of my pendants. And also, this could be an earring or it could be a pendant. Just a hammered out circle, and then I soldered on a flower and a couple of leaves. You can make just about anything if you have the molds to make them with. These little twigs are really cute, and then these little bees are very sweet. They can be added on to other little things. And you can mold objects. This cross, for example, is a friend of mine, Bonnie. She has this cross, and I took a mold of it and made this cross the other day, and I was kind of pleased the way it came out. It's got a few little flaws in it, but it was the first time I did it, so I'm going to do another one of those. Then there are some larger bees and birds, little birdhouse, and chicken feet. I absolutely love quirky chicken feet. I don't know why, I just do. Anyway, those are some of the things that you can make. And I'll set these aside for now. And here are some of the molds that I have. I've bought a lot of them, and I've made a few. I've made a few of my own as well. They're very simple to make. I believe that some of these molds that I purchased are made with a different material than what I'm going to be using today, but that can also be researched, and I think there's videos on YouTube probably on how to make this. This is a liquid silicone, I believe, that's poured in a container with your little pieces in, as opposed to what I'm going to be doing today with it, which is a two-part mold. So there's lots of little different things, and I will also let you know where I got these things, the ones that I purchased. Okay, so that's just a few things. But I also, let me see here. I have a little box of trinkets that I keep, different little charms, loose little things that I like, that I can mold. There's other things that aren't moldable, but I can use them in resin, so they're in this little box. A few things I set aside to show you are, my friend Rhonda had a box of goodies the other day that I looked through, and she had these little brads that are used for scrapbooking that I thought were really cool. This is like a little concho but they have the little stems on the back of them to put them on paper projects and things like that. But you can certainly make an impression out of these little things. And I've got the moon face and a butterfly, a dragonfly, or I guess that's a bee. I'm not really sure. There's another little face and a butterfly. I hope you can see those things. These little rings are if you were making something larger and you wanted to put a hanging loop in there. So these are another little product that I'll tell you where you can get those as well. So some of these things are charms that have loops on them. And if you want to make a mold of them and you don't want that loop, you can just snip it off with some heavy duty wire cutters. Don't use your delicate cutters for these. I don't know what kind of metal it is, so you don't want to ruin your cutters. So there's that. But also the cross that I made, that I copied, that did have a loop in it. And I left that the way it was. So I had to drill the hole after the clay was fired, but that was not a big deal at all. So that's a place where I would leave the loop on there for sure. So that's another option. Okay, so those are some little things that you can embed. I've also heard of people carrying a small container of the 2-part mold with them in their purse, so that when they're shopping or at a craft store or something, they see something really cool, they'll take an impression of it right then and there. I have yet to do something like that, but I guess it's doable. So, okay. Let's see here. Do we have any questions yet? Where do I get the succulents? Okay. I get the succulent mold, and I get it on Etsy at, well, there's a couple different places, but my favorite one is Piper Pixie Designs, and I'm going to have that. I have a handout that I've been making for each one of our classes that I present, or not classes, but demos that I'm presenting. So you will be able to print this, and it will have resources on there as well. But there were the Piper Pixie Designs, Mold Muse, and Whisper Fairy were 3 of the Etsy shops that I bought some of the molds from, but there are more. I just haven't investigated a lot of them. Also, I wanted to ask you guys if you are able to print these off of the group page. They're in the files section, and I just have Microsoft Word, so that's the format that they're in. I don't know how to do a PDF if I need to get a certain program. I think I do to do that. If that's easier for people to be able to view the instruction sheets and resources, let me know, and then I'll attack that and find out how to do it. So, okay, so the product that I'm using today is called Amazing Putty, Amazing Mold Putty, Super Pour. Okay, so well, I think the Super Pour is in French. I think that's the equivalent of Amazing Mold Putty, but I don't know French. Anyway, it's a 2-part mold mix. There's an A and a B, and you mix equal portions of it. It's pretty darn simple. You have about a minute of working time as far as mixing it together, and then I think it's 2 to 3 minutes before the stuff sets up. So you really can't fart around with it. You know, once you've got it mixed, you need to get your little charms and embellishments set in the putty, and then you let it cure for about 15 to 20 minutes before you pop them out. So that's what I'm going to do. Oh, if you have like a little gram scale, that's really nice so that you get your equal measurements. But if you don't, you can eyeball it. You know, you could take a half a teaspoon or a teaspoon measuring spoon and dish out a little bit. So that's what I'm going to do. So, well, I am going to use my scale since it's here. So I'm going to just take, you don't need a lot. You should really figure out, you know, have it all ready what you're going to do and figure out how much you really need to use. So I've got this little ball here. I'm going to weigh it, and it's 8.3 grams. And I'm going to try to get the same in the yellow. That's just a pinch too much. There we go, 8.3. That was easy enough. Okay, now before I mix that, before I mix it, I want to decide what I'm going to use. So I think I'm going to do this little concho. And, well, geez, I did some of those already. I don't want to do the same things. All right, I'm going to do a heart. I like hearts on some things, not everything. And a butterfly. Oh, and I'll do this little square thing. All right, so I am going to cut off the loop. Well, I guess it depends on what you're going to do with it. I'm just going to cut it off. Nothing like being decisive. Whoa. And it's on the floor. Okay, forget that. And cut off the loop. Okay, get rid of that. Okay. Let's see if I have another heart in here. Oh, there's a cute one with a little dog paw, or little paw, animal paw on here. I'll just snip that off. Okay, so there's that. Okay, so I've got my two parts, and you're just going to mix it together, knead it together. And you just mix it until you don't see any streaks. It should be a uniform yellow color. You should not see any white in here. Now, in my handout, I had put, if you want to put this in a container to get a more rounded shape like some of these, you can like take a jar lid or something and put it in there, but unless you're using the two-part liquid silicone, you really don't need to contain it. So I just want to mix it all up, get all of those streaks out of there, roll it into a ball, and then I'm just going to pat it down. In a little circle and kind of smooth it out a little bit. And I'm going to, I hope you guys can see okay. I'm going to take my butterfly and press it in here. I'm using an awl. You could use a toothpick. Whatever, my fingers, I just think are a little bit too fat to do that, to press it in. or your fingernail, I guess. And you don't have to go in too deep because you would be using an awful lot of clay, and you don't need that kind of depth for these little embellishments. It's a little bit different on some of the succulents. They are a little bit deeper. They have a little more detail. But for these shallow charms, you don't really need it very deep. Okay, so I'd say that's good enough. And I'm just going to leave that alone for a few minutes. Set these aside. So that's the amazing putty, 2-part putty. You can get most of this stuff at a craft store, or you could get it on Amazon if you're not shopping in stores right now, especially with this COVID business going on. And if you do shop on Amazon, if you would shop at Francesca Watson's Amazon affiliate, she will get a small amount for every purchase on her link. So if you want more information about that, I will be happy to share that with you. She has a studio that she's running, and she has rent to pay. She has all kinds of expenses, and she gives so much to our jewelry community that it's just a small way to repay her for all she does for us. So I hope you would consider that. Okay, so while that's drying, I'll talk about clay. And before I go to clay, I want to add that a lot of you I know have impression molds, like Potter impression molds and the bronze impression molds for metalsmithing. And these little guys here, they work great with metal clay. So I have a variety of different shapes. They're small. These are some of the guys that, like the birds, I've done birds and then I solder them onto earring links and things. So these are definitely usable. He also has, this is where I got my chicken feet. He has like a little owl and an acorn and a beautiful twig. This twig is really nice. It is, where was it? I have soldered this on to different applications as well. It's just really pretty. So you get more bang for your buck using these dies as well. So I'm not going to focus on those, but I wanted to throw that in there because they are definitely usable and solderable to make solderable things, you know, for your jewelry creations. All right. Yes, Julie, Francesca is wonderful. She's a very, very giving person, and I'd like to support her in any way I can. So, all right, so there's that. Now, I use art clay silver. That's what I learned with. As far as metal clay goes, there's lots of different brands. There's PMC. There's other ones out there. I don't really know that much about them because I just stick with art clay silver. So it comes in a variety of different size packages. This is a 10 gram, and then there's a 20 gram. There's a 50 gram and up. I think starting off with a 10 gram pack is probably good because once you open it, you're pretty much committed to using the whole pack. So a 20 gram might be a little bit too much for a beginner. Maybe not. I don't know. I'm just saying that, well, we'll see how far a 6 or a 10 gram pack goes. And then you can kind of judge what you want to buy for yourself. So there's that. Okay, so let's check on our mold. I'd say it still has a little bit of time to cure. I could pick it up, but generally, if you can still stick your fingernail in it, it's really not set all the way. So we'll leave that alone. I think what I'll do is play with one of the other molds that I have. And for this process, you need something to work on, a texture or a piece of wax paper or something to work on. I like these little Teflex sheets. This is, it's actually a craft sheet. It's non-stick. A lot of people use it for a lot of different crafting. You could put paints on it, and it doesn't, nothing sticks to it. It just all wipes right off. So these are very, very handy to have. And you need a hand balm, something that you can use olive oil. I personally don't care to use the olive oil, but a balm is good because you don't want the clay to stick to your hands. Then there's another product called Cool Slip that I use for the inside of my molds. It's a mold release, and that's also very necessary because you want to be able to get the clay out of here. So what I will do, you also need a sanding sponge. These are 3M sanding sponges. A fine texture is good. I sand a lot with these. I also have some needle files, and these are teeny tiny diamond files. And if you could find them small like this, I would recommend these over the larger ones, but you may have to settle for larger. I think I got these at a trade show in Vegas, oh gosh, maybe 8 or 9 years ago, at a metal clay booth. I'm pretty sure that's where I bought them. And I have done a search trying to find these, but I haven't found them. All I have found are like the 6-inch long ones, which will do because the sanding sponge can't get into all the little crevices, but these would be better. These are just a little bit easier to get into. Okay, let me look at questions because I see I've got a few of them, and then I will keep going. Okay. Lisa, thank you. I'll check that out after I'm done here about the PDF files. And Patty, it's my understanding she gets credit for anything you bought. Yeah, Francesca will get credit for any purchase if you enter Amazon with her link. So I will post a link for you to do that if you want to consider doing that. Where do I buy my art clay silver? I'm used to buying PMC from Rio. I generally get it directly from Art Clay World. I'm one of their certified teachers there, so I buy it there. But you can also get that on Amazon as well. I don't know. I've never had any problem at all with art clay, but I know there's people that are diehard fans, of one or another. But I think it's basically what you learned with that people tend to stick with. Darn, my live feed keeps freezing up. Wow. I'm sorry to hear that. I have heard that if you have problems with things freezing up, that you should get out of the page and then go back in and see if that helps. But right now, it looks like it's still going okay for me. So I hope you can get that up. Yes, you do need the Cool Slip on the metal forms as well. You want to put that mold release on everything so that you can get your clay out of there. Okay, art clay. Okay. Yeah, if you bought a bigger package and you don't use it all, you can reconstitute it. I try to keep it in wrapped in plastic. I'll give it a spritz or two of distilled water and seal it up in a like a little Tupperware container so that it can stay fresh. but you can always kind of bring it back to life with a little bit of water and knead it a little bit. Okay, so there's that. Yes, art clay silver does require torch firing. So, and I'm going to do that. I'm going to walk through the whole whole process, because I've already got some pieces that I made yesterday, and I'm going to clean them up to show you how to do that, and then we'll fire them too. Okay. And I believe you can do this in a kiln as well, but I never have, so I can't really guide you on that. Okay, so I think we're ready to, oh, you need a dry paintbrush. All this stuff is in my handout too, so if I don't say everything right here while we're live, you can refer back to those notes. And a craft knife. You need a craft knife too. Very, very important. All right, so I'll move my mold to the side. I'm going to open my package first. And you get all kinds of papers and things that I don't need. I do hang on to this little pouch though, because I'm going to put my unused clay back in there to prevent it from drying out. Okay, and it's wrapped really well. Get this off to the side. And at this point, I am going to spritz my mold. Doesn't have to be a heavy spray, just enough to get down in there. And now I'm going to lube up my hands, because you don't want all that expensive silver caked up on your hands and not in your work. So, okay, that's good. Now I'm going to open up the little package. Notice I opened all that other stuff before I have greasy hands, because why make it harder than it has to be? Now, this formula is very, well, it's just very easy to work with. It's very moldable. It used to be, when you bought clay, that it was fairly hard, and you had to really knead it to get it malleable enough to use it. So I'm just going to pinch off a little bit, just a little bit, and stick the rest back in my pouch. And kind of roll that in. What I usually do is make a little small ball and stick it in and just kind of press it down a little bit with the bottom of my ball, and then put another ball in there. And just kind of press it to make sure that it's all in there. Now these are deep, so you don't have to have it like filled. Well, it's pretty much filled to the brim, but you could put a little bit more if you wanted, but really it's not necessary, because the succulent is already pretty thick. So it's in there, and I usually do one at a time. I don't fill the whole mold at once. Oh, and you need to put a little of the balm on your Teflex sheet, just a little bit for the clay. And I'm just going to turn it over and push it out. And voila, it fell out. Now it's upside down, of course. So I'm turning it over. And you get a pretty little succulent. Now, if you hadn't overfilled your mold, you're going to have very little cleanup. So that's really great. I really see nothing on here that I need to clean off. But if I had overfilled it, there would be some stuff on the on the outside, and I take my craft knife and I just trim very closely around the object. And the reason for that is it's much easier to clean it at this stage than if you have to sand all that excess off later. And you're not wasting clay that way too. So that's plus. All right, so I'm going to take that piece and gently transfer it on another sheet. Now from here, you want it to start to dry. And I have a dehydrator that I've had for a long time, dedicated just to crafts. So I would put it in my dehydrator, and it probably will take, I don't know, 30 minutes maybe in the dehydrator to dry thoroughly. So most people don't have that, and that's fine. But a cup warmer is nice to use, and you could just put your pieces directly on the cup warmer, and they'll dry out fairly quickly. Or you can let them air dry, but in that case I wouldn't mess with these until tomorrow, just to be sure that they're totally dry. They have to be totally dry. If they're not, any moisture that's trapped inside the clay, as soon as you put the flame on it, they're just gonna like pop and make like blisters, and your design is pretty much shot. So it's better to make sure that they're totally dry. I'll also show you a little trick to kind of judge if they're dry enough or not. So I would put this to the side and then work on my next one. All right, so now I'll well, you know, I made a little bee mold the other day, so I'm going to try that. A lot of this stuff is just kind of trial and error. I mean, it's like that with just about anything. You just see how it works for you. You don't want to keep your clay in your hand too long either, because if you tend to run warm, some people's hands are very warm, you'll dry out the clay faster. So kind of avoid that. This one, I have a feeling I'm going to have some cleanup to do on him. Oh, I forgot to spray him. Well, let's see if he pops out okay. Well, he did. That was lucky. But if you can see, there is a lot more stuff on him to clean up. So I'm going to trim it out with my craft knife. And if you can get as close as possible to the body, all the way around, and just trim it out with your knife. And all these little pieces, if you don't take too long, you can put them back in with your other clay, and you haven't lost anything. If you have clay that's dried out, you haven't used it all, and it's dried out beyond reconstituting, or say projects that failed that you hadn't fired yet, but they're too dry to reconstitute, I save all my little pieces, crumbs, dust, everything, because it's all potentially doable, workable clay again. So I'll just trim that off. Now, if this was the last of my clay, it's not enough to do anything with, but it's not. But if it was, I have a little jar here of scraps, of stuff that didn't go too well, and little crumbs. So I keep it all in there. Now, when I'm going to put this back in here, when you want to reconstitute your clay, your dry clay, you should have a dedicated coffee grinder, and you can just put some of that in there, grind it up, and reconstitute it with a little bit of distilled water, and mix it and keep it in a little container. My friend Deb did that, gosh, probably 6 or 8 months ago. When she was here, she brought all her gear and had a ton of clay, dried clay, and made a big batch of it. And we used some of it, and then we discovered later on that the clay started growing mold on it. It had like black and green fuzz all over it, and we kind of figure that it was just because we used tap water. I don't know. So I would say use distilled water if you're going to reconstitute your clay. It's still usable, even with the fuzz on it. It's kind of gross. We did lose a lot of clay, scraping all that stuff off. But that's just something to keep in mind, So anyway, Deb's really responsible for me doing this because she had bought the succulent molds and came over for a play date and brought all this stuff over, and I took a look at it, did some of it with her, and I was hooked. So Deb, it's your fault. Okay? She's an enabler just like I am. So, and that's okay. It's all fun. It's all good. All right, so that's the little bee. And I'm going to move him over to the, I should have done that on the Teflex sheet, but I didn't. I'm going to move him over very carefully to there, and he'll go in the dehydrator later. And let's see, I'll do another one. Oh, I'm sorry, you guys. Some of you guys are having a lot of trouble with It's Frozen. This is the first time that that's happening here for me, I believe. All right, let's see. Let's try this new one. All right, so I'm pulling this stuff out. Come on. So that's the new mold that I just made. All right, so I'm going to give him a little spritz. All right, it's maybe a little too much. I'll just do this one more, and then I will clean some clay that I made yesterday to show you that, and then we'll torch fire one. Okay, so I chose the butterfly on here. That's a little bit too much stuff here. And I'm going to push him out. There we go. And flip him over. And I've got trimming to do on him. And after I trim this, I'm going to see if there's any questions that anybody has. Now, if you're working with a larger piece, say if you wanted one of those Potter impression dies, and you need a hanging hole in it, what I use for that is a little coffee stir stick, like a little teeny straw that you can make a hole with, I should say. All right. Well, I was going to use this whole package to see what we got out of it. I forgot about that. I mean, it's not a terrible amount, a terribly large amount, 10 grams, But like I said, it depends on how much stuff you want to make. And especially if you're just starting off with it, you might not want to invest a whole lot in clay until you know. Well, let's do this little seahorse. And, you know, the clay will take, oh, you know what? We should do a little bee too. These little bees, I just love these little bees. I think, okay. All right. So I'll do, the more you manipulate the clay with your hands, the faster it dries it out. So try not to work it too much. Okay, so it's level with the mold. And now I'm going to push it out. Cute! I'm going to cut off that little ring there because I'm not going to, if I want to solder this on something, I don't want that ring on there. Oh, guys, he is so cute. You know, if you have a real delicate piece and you're afraid to trim him too much, you might want to just let him dry and then sand him out. But any way you look at it, when you're working with real delicate things, it's a real possibility that you could break it, that it, you know, while you're trying to sand it. So don't get overcomplicated patterns or charms or whatever, because things with lots of points, I mean, just look at it in the respect that you have to sand all of that stuff. And if it's really fragile, it may not work out well for you, and then you'll be disappointed. So think ahead with that when you're planning what you're going to do. But I like to trim off as much as I possibly can with the craft knife, and then I'll sand. And with this, you definitely need little needle files to get in there to get them sanded properly. You do have the option after it's fired that you can work with it with your flex shaft. You can trim with that too, but like I had said, if you get as much as you can clean to begin with the craft knife, then you don't have all that cleanup. All right, I'm gonna see if I can hold him up and show you how he's just adorable. That's just adorable. All right, so I'll put him over. You know what? I'll do the bees and then I'll get any questions. I don't normally do two at once, but I am only because I don't have, this is the last of the clay. This is of the 10-gram pack. So you can see, based on the depth of what I'm making, that's how many pieces you're going to get. It's one bee, two bees. You need a pretty light touch when you're trimming around here. And I just knocked off his one antenna on this one, so I'll redo him. And I'll use a little bit more clay from the trimmings here. Bear with me, guys. I know this might be a little bit boring to watch me do this part, but I don't know. I feel it's important that you see it, and it might help you when you're doing your stuff. At least I didn't pick out too intricate of designs. When you get close to the antenna, you can't get too picky on what you're taking off. You don't want to get too close. But surprisingly, they hold up pretty well once you're when you sand them. It's kind of amazing. You'd think that maybe you're going to lose those right off the bat, but I haven't. Okay, so he's better. This guy's better. And very gently hold on to them because you don't want to press out the design. Now these little scraps are going to go in the scrap jar because that's the end of my clay. I've got nothing else that I can do with this stuff. Oh, and you know, if you didn't want to reconstitute your clay, you could fire it and then you can turn it in to a metals recycling. They'll take the metal clay as well, but it has to be fired. Okay, so I've got my 2 Bs out of that. And I'll add these. And that's not a lot of waste for that package. So that's I'm okay with that. I'll put that in my jar. Put that to the side. Okay, so let me check for questions. Yeah, Melody, I did buy the bee mold. That was I think Mold Muse on Etsy. Okay. Yeah, Julie, Deb is trouble. She's big trouble. She and I are very bad when we're together. So maybe good for you guys, you know, since I can show you some of this stuff. But yeah, she and Rhonda, my friend Rhonda, they are my partners in crime. It's like every week. It's like, did you buy anything this week? What'd you get? Maybe I need to get that too. And yeah, we just feed off of each other. So, okay, so this is garbage now. Put that to the side. And I'm wiping off my hands because now I'm going to be touching the dry clay. And I don't want to reintroduce any moisture to that. Okay. Waste can be made into paste, Jennifer. It can. You can do that. It just depends on what you want to do. How much you want to mess with clay. You know, if you're going to use a lot of clay, then yeah, you can use paste lots of ways. Okay, so I'm going to put my craft knife away so I don't stab myself. And put my eyes back on. And these are, these are the ones that are going to dry. So I'm going to say goodbye to those guys for now. Okay. Put that away. Okay, so I have some things that I did yesterday. All right. And so these, okay, these guys are dry. They don't look much different. They're just maybe a little whiter. Doesn't make a bit of difference. Get these out of the way. All right. Now I've got my sanding pad and my needle files. I hope there's not a lot of glare. Okay. So, you know, this guy, he's the little moon face guy. I'm just going to take the sanding pad and, you know, get a firm grip, but not too hard. I mean, it really depends on how thick your piece is, how gentle you have to be, but you need to be able to hold on to it to sand all the edges off. And I keep all this sanding dust too, and just kind of push it in the little jar. And I'll take the back part and just sand on the back a little bit if it's uneven. If it doesn't need anything, you don't have to do that, but just you can wear a mask when you're doing this. You probably should, because it's clay dust and you don't want to be breathing stuff you shouldn't. And of course I don't have one on right now, but I really should have one on. Not a bad idea. He looks pretty good. He wasn't bad to begin with because I trimmed him up pretty well, but you can get as involved as you want. Okay, so he's done as far as I'm concerned. Now I'm going to get to the bee, this little guy. He's got little tiny antenna, and let's see if he keeps his antenna. So just for the side of the body, I'm going to use the sanding sponge on the side of his wings. And then I have a little teeny tiny file that I'm ever so gently cleaning up his antenna. This again, you know, if you're afraid you're going to knock him off, you could just fire him as is and then trim him up with a flex shaft. But if you live on the edge like I do, yuck, yuck, you can go for filing it. I'm just an impatient person, and I just want to get it done. And then when I break something, then I think, well, damn, I shouldn't have been so impatient, but that's how it is. All right, and I'm just going to go over the bottom a little bit. He should be level, but just in case, you know, you can sand him out a little bit. All right. Oh, I forgot to say, when you're testing your piece to see if it's dry, a handy little tip is to have a little piece of glass or a mirror. So if this just happens to be a mirror tile, and what you would do is, to test it out, you would put your piece on the glass, and then just let it sit there for a second or two, and then lift it up. And if there's any condensation on the mirror, then you know your clay is still wet. That's a test that I do after I take it out of the dehydrator, but you could do it also after you've had it on a cup warmer. And I guess also air dry. I don't hardly ever let anything air dry because I want it now, you know, so That's just a little tip to tell. It really does work. It really does. So we'll do that, and I guess I'll do a succulent as well. I trimmed him fairly well too. But see, guys, that's why I'm saying the little tiny needle files are really handy. But I suppose you could use the other ones too. Just have to be more careful, I think. You don't want to wail on it at all. You want to just be very gentle. But that's, like I said, where the trimming with the craft knife comes in. The more you do beforehand, the less you have cleanup. Okay, so now, before I fire them, I am going to take a dry paintbrush and dust these guys off because there's an incredible amount of clay dust on them. And we don't want to mess up our firing in any way. So let's see here, get this stuff out of the way. And as I clean each piece, I'm going to put him on my solder brick. And clay shrinks about 10%. So the piece is not going to be as big as it appears right now. Okay, it's going to shrink. So, and let me give you an example of that with this butterfly that I did with a Potter die. Oh, I don't have the butterfly die with me. Well, I have to get up and get it because it's worth showing. Okay. Back. I always forget something. Okay, so here's this butterfly, which makes a really cute pendant. But here is the impression die. And you can see how much shrinkage there was. Can you get a good view of that? So when I put the clay in there, it filled that whole butterfly, and then that's what came out. I still have to set him with a tube bezel or crystal or whatever. But yeah, I mean, it's doable, but I wanted you to see the shrinkage comparison. Okay, so I'll put that aside. And I guess we're ready to fire. So I'll bring my brick over here. I've got a timer. I'm going to set it for 2 minutes. I have a smaller size torch, like a creme brulee torch. You don't want to use a real powerful torch, at least not in my opinion. It would be too easy to melt these. So these take 2 minutes to torch fire. Let me see if there's any questions before I fire. And let's see. I know these things look stupid, but you know what? I don't care. They work for me. So okay, sorry. Yes, you put it directly on the cup warmer. You can put it on the Teflex sheet if you have more to spare. That would probably make more sense. So yeah, Deb, you could definitely do that. Okay. What is that pack of the price? It's around $25, I want to say. give or take, maybe a little less. But yeah, I think that's about what retail is. I think it's close. Okay, all right, so we'll go back to firing now. So I've got a piece of ceramic tile on here to protect my work mat. You should do one piece at a time, and it's only 2 minutes, so you know, it won't take you all that long. If you're doing copper takes 10 minutes per piece, and I kind of gave up with copper. I started to like it a lot, and then I had some trouble with it, so I'm just sticking with the silver. It's a much easier clay to use, I think, in my opinion. But if you have like multiple little succulents, you could maybe do like 3 at a time. You know, that'll save some time. But if it's a larger piece, you should definitely do 2 minutes at a time. All right, so I'm going to do this guy. Got my timer set for 2 minutes. Well, not off yet, but okay, we'll get that started. Now, when I heat this up, if you're unfamiliar with clay, there's a binder that's in the clay that's going to catch fire, and that's okay. It's supposed to happen. So if you see flames rise up, just stick with it. Don't withdraw the flame. Just stick with it. It's supposed to happen. It extinguishes in just a second, so it's not a big deal. So what I'm going to do is circulate my heat around the flower or the piece, and when well, the binder's going to start to burn off. There you can see the flame. That's okay. I'm just sticking with it. I'm not backing off. There, and it's gone. So see, it didn't take very long. And I'm just circulating around the piece. And it's going to start to look white, and then maybe have a little bit of an orange glow, like right now. And now I set my timer for 2 minutes. And I'm just going to keep that heat steady, circular movement. If you see your piece start to get shiny silver, then you're heating it up a little bit too much. So you need to back off your flame a little bit. You want it to kind of stay with that consistent orange glow, but you don't want it to melt. And I don't know if I have a fan going on in here. I don't know if that is going to mess me up with the flame. It doesn't look like it, but I probably should have shut it off before I started firing. And during this magical process, it is shrinking just a little bit, but it is. Oh, my timer didn't start. Rats. Well, that had to be at least a minute. Nothing like a good demo, huh? And I have tweezers and a quench cup right next to me. Nice and handy. Now this does not need to go in the pickle. This silver is fine silver, so it does not get any fire scale on it. So that's good. That saves you a step. However, if you're soldering this onto something, you will need to stick it in the pickle after that. But for now, this is just fine. And I have a bowl of water and a brass brush that I'm going to clean it with, or brush it up a little bit. And then I will check to see if it needs any further refinement on the flex shaft. And I generally tumble them But really it's not necessary until, you know, you're going to use it in your piece, unless you're doing something that's going to be a standalone, like a pendant or something. I would just, from this point, then I would tumble it. All right, I'm going to call that 2 minutes because it has to be. Okay. I'll make sure that that thing goes off right next time. Okay, so now I'm going to just quench it. Zip. I love to hear that sound. Okay. Okay, so it's quenched and it is now metal. It's just like a little miracle. So that's done. Now, now I'm going to take, well, you know, yeah, I'll just do that. I'll take the brass brush and some water, because it looks rather white right now. That's just how it looks when it's fired. And I want to get my dry clay away from that. I don't want to splash on there. And just get a brass brush. Give it a little scrub. Now, in all these little petals and crevices, it can still look a little bit whitish in there. And that's where, you know, putting it in the tumbler is helpful. I'll fire one more piece for you guys and then, or do I need to? Should I? I don't know. Okay, so that is a little succulent right there. As opposed to one that's already tumbled, you know, it's quite a bit shinier, but it's basically the same thing. Any questions? What kind of power? Okay. What kind of problem with copper clay? Mine seems drier and grittier. It's a different consistency. It's actually a very nice consistency, but I think the formulation has changed. I could be wrong, but I used quite a bit of copper clay maybe 10 years ago, and it was very thick and hard, and you really had to knead it. I mean, it really took some hand strength to knead it, to get it malleable enough to put in molds and things. And when it fired, even though it took longer, I would typically put the copper clay in the kiln. I'd just do a big batch at once because of the 10-minute per piece. And when I do classes, that's just like crazy. So I would do them in a kiln. But recently I had bought some more copper clay because I like the look of it. I really do like it. But it seems to split when it's fired. And I tried 3 different ways. I did it with a torch, I did it in the kiln, and then I did it in a pan with the coconut charcoal. And they all basically gave me the same result. So it's either I'm doing something wrong that I'm not aware of, or the formula changed. I just don't know. So I just kind of gave it up. And that's a shame because it's copper is really pretty. In my opinion, it is. So that's my story about that. You have to see, don't worry about the glasses. Yeah, I know the glasses. I have like 3 or 4 different kinds of visors, and I have the one that Francesca wears. I'm just not comfortable in them, so these just work for me. So thank you for that. So that's pretty much. I was doing leaves smallish, still 2 minutes. Yeah, you would still do the 2 minutes, but you just make sure that you have that heat control. You just don't want to melt it, but you want to make sure, they call it sintering, that the clay sinters through so that it's fired through to the center. And if it's not, it can break, it can crack, and it can break. So you want to make sure that it's really fired well. So that's, I would say that's pretty much it, unless you want me to see, unless you want to see more firing, but it's basically that, you know, just doing what I just did. So if you guys have any other questions, let me know here. And let's see, anything else? Oh, I want to know what you guys would like to do next week. I was thinking about maybe doing some bangles. I have these bangles on here. These are, same for the large one too, Cynthia. Yeah, 2 minutes. Do Mr. Moon? You want me to do that? Okay. All right, we'll hold the thought on this. I will do Mr. Moon. All right, let me make sure that I set the timer. Oh, too long. Boy, they're so sensitive. There, too. All right, I've got it there. Okay, we're going to watch Mr. Moon go up in flames. There he goes. Fire. He's a lot thicker. Okay, I'm starting my timer now, and it is working. Can you see that color change, that orange glow? That's what you want. I'm backing off just a little bit because I'm afraid that I'm going to get too hot with him. And he's starting, a little bit of silver starting to come out on him. So I might have just been a little bit too close with the heat at the get-go. You can solder some of these little elements on rings. This guy may be too big for that, but some of the little flowers and leaves are really cute on little rings and as additions or embellishments on pendants and bracelets. It's really, you know, whatever your imagination allows, how you can use them. Oh, and I had said I was going to show you how to put a hole in the clay, which I forgot to show you, but I'll show you the stir stick. I'll put it right here in front of my face so I remember. See, the silver's coming out a little bit more. But you want to make sure that he's cooked through real good. Okay. All right. Okay. And there's Mr. Moon. He's a cutie. Now, I had told you about these. Oh, first the stir stick. This is just a small little coffee straw. And if I was doing a larger piece, when the clay is fresh, you know, wet, whatever, I would, this guy's hot now, I would just take my coffee stir stick and just kind of set it on there and give it a little twist and then lift straight up, and then you have your holes. Basically, you know, you just determine where you want to put them, and that was done with a stir stick. You can use a hole punch with these if you forgot to put your hole in there ahead of time. You can use a hole punch with it. It'll go through them. So that's another option. And then something else I had said earlier, these little, well, I guess it's kind of like a bail. It's a hanging thing. When your clay is wet, if you wanted to make this as an earring or a pendant and you didn't want a hole, in his head, you could take one of these little rings. Can you see that okay? It's got a little tab that you would insert into the clay, and only the ring would stick out then. That would be like in the middle. You just put it in like that, just push that in and make it nice and secure. Make sure that that ring is seated right up against the top, and then you can fire it with that in place, and it works really good. Let me see if I've got it on. Yeah, I have it on this B. I have one of those on this B. That's exactly what I did. I just pushed that little ring inside and fired it with them on there, and that makes it nice and hangable. Any other questions? Oh, Gina, good. I'm glad you enjoy that. Could you head right on a piece? Diffuse it. Deb Henready, what do you mean? What do you mean? No, these are fine silver. They are, oh no, the little rings that I just put on, these are, yeah, they're fine silver, these little thingies. So I'll also have the reference, I think it's metalclayfindings.com is where I got these from. So I think they come in an assorted packet, or I'm not sure if you can get them all one size or not, but I think this was an assorted size package. Okay, heat on a silver backing. Yeah, heat. Yeah, I don't see why not. You know, I mean, I put them on this piece, and I just put a little solder underneath them. I soldered on the back like sweat soldering. Just put a little silver on there and then just soldered them right to the back plate. So I hope that that's what you mean. Yeah, okay. All right, guys. I guess that's going to conclude this this demo. And like I said, I'll have a slight instruction sheet and materials list. I'm going to put it on the web page right now, the group page. And hi, Suzanne. Yes, yeah, you'll have to watch the replay. Yeah, a lot of people just can't make it for the live, and I understand that. I totally get that. And I know you're far away, so I appreciate you tuning in. Yeah, oh, we were going to talk about next week. I could do bangles with a bangle press. I have, that's an option. I mean, I have lots of different things. I'm just not sure what you guys want to see right off the bat. But I have the bangle mold to do the shapes. Maybe you guys have some of these. This is the bangle size. And, oh, please don't be stuck to, oh, okay, here we go. Comes apart like that. You make your bangle, have your bangle sized and everything, and then you put it in there and press it on here, and then you get the wavy shape, and it's kind of fun. That's that. You can do them in copper or silver or brass, whatever kind of wire you have. And I also have the wire impression molds that you make your wire design with, or you can stamp them if you don't have those. You can do that. I also could do, well, another choice. Oh, and I have the earring size bangle press as well that I can demonstrate that. I did do a demo on this on Francesca's site for the earring with the bangle, the earring size bangle, but you can make earrings and rings with the wavy texture on there. So I could do that, or I could start an enamel series, or just, you know, basic. Now I torch fire, and I also kiln enamel, but mostly torch fire. But I do the immersion method more than on the tripod method. So if you want to see what that's all about, I can do that as well. Or I don't know, I need suggestions from you guys. So I'll take whatever I hear about and we'll go from there. But yeah, but the immersion method, I don't know if that many people are familiar as with the tripod, but that's the way I prefer to do my torch fired enamels. And you do need a couple of different things in your supplies that make the immersion method more doable, but it's very fun. So I don't know, I mean, I've got a list of different things, and we'll just see what you guys want to see. I don't want to teach the same things other people are doing, of course. This is a good opportunity for you guys to learn different things, or just kind of pick my brain of how I do things. So I'm not sure how I'm going to do classes that require me to get up and use different things. So far, what I've presented, I'm able to sit down and have everything right here in front of me. When I do the torch fired enamels, I will have a loud torch that I'll be working with, and I don't know how well you'll be able to hear me. So so there's that added to the mix. So I mean, all I can say is I'll do the best that I can with what I have to work with. So I don't have the great camera system. It's just my phone that I'm using. So, but I'm willing to share. So that's good. Okay, guys. So that's it for this week, and see you on the page. I hope that you'll post things on there, that you'll refer your friends to our group page. It's growing. We got like another 40 people since last week, which I consider pretty good. And a couple people have posted some of the things they've made, which I really appreciate. And I don't know. I mean, I just hope you enjoy it and get something out of it. So, all right, guys, we'll see you next Wednesday, and see you on the group page and on Facebook. Take care. Bye-bye.